And we are live. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Coach's Corner Health. My name is Leslie Gadet. I am a mindset and emotional awareness coach for women. I help my clients achieve self-awareness around their emotional triggers so that they can have those big, better responses. Just be more aware of how they respond when they get those trigger moments happening. And that will allow them to bring more balance, around those moments. And they're not always going to find themselves just kind of having those quick responses, but rather realizing and becoming self-aware that not everything has to be a from 0 to 100 response. So that's who I am in a nutshell. Hey, Andy, welcome. I'm so excited to be on here with you. Tell us about you.
Thank you, Leslie. I love these conversations. It's always great to be on this conversation with you. Hi, I'm Andy. I'm the unconditional coach. I coach people around control issues and choice. I've recently evolved my statement to say, and I've done this a couple of times in the last few shows we've done, to say that I help people find the choices in their life. I'm more of a general life coach. I help with all kinds of things. I don't stick to a specific niche. This is something I've been talking about my coach with about recently is I don't stick with a specific niche. I like to help all kinds of people with all kinds of things. And I think what nails it down nicely is that I help people find choice. So people with control issues, which is how I used to describe it, either they don't have control of their lives or they are controlling other people's lives. The reason that we control people is because we don't feel we have options, or we don't want other people to use the options they have. So we either feel out of control or we try and control people. And whereas if we can help people see the options they have, if I can help people see the options they have, then I can help them gain control over the parts of their lives they can control, and then you let go of the control of the lives of the parts of their lives that are out of their control, are really something they can't control. So that's what I do. I help people find the choices. Anything from depression and anxiety to addiction to relationships to business to you name it, work-life balance, online businesses, you name it. I help all kind of people with all kind of things. So that's who I am, and I'm looking forward to today's conversation.
Yes, me too, because I think part of this is going to really lean into one of the areas for you, which is the boundaries. So I'm really excited about this, because we actually talked about this topic a few weeks ago, like quite a few weeks ago, around a personal experience. And so I think this is a really good topic to get into, because I think it happens more than people realize, and it can become a thing where you can hold a grudge. I think it can cause you to hold a grudge. And so, we're going to be talking about being used. Like, are you being used? And like, what does it mean to be used?
Yes.
And if you feel that you're there, are you enabling the person or the people in your life to do that to you? Because sometimes we also have to take personal responsibility, especially if we are allowing ourselves to be treated a certain way. So
that's exactly it. And so let's start with the very concept of what does it mean actually to be used? Like a lot of people use that terminology, and I find a lot of people in the coaching world, a lot of the coaches that I know, they find themselves using that less and less, that term to be used or being used or having been used. There are a few coaches who focus around that. And even they don't necessarily use it in their personal lives. They use it to identify their clients or their prospective clients, because a lot of people feel used. What does it actually mean to feel used? Like, what do you think it means to feel used?
I was muted. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
I didn't want anyone to hear me typing. So, my own personal experience that we talked about was, for me, I'm really super sensitive, I think, when it comes to hold that vulnerable self where I hold personal space with other people, where I show up in a way where if you, especially if we're friends or if we are close in some way and we've been sharing, like ideas and being able to be there, leaning on one another. And then once that person in my own perception of it, I felt like once that person gained from me what they needed, which was whatever the support was, whether it was uplifting and encouraging them to do the things that they were doing, maybe giving them ideas, maybe helping them in some way, and then deciding that they no longer have time for me. And so for me, that made me feel that I was used, that the friendship really wasn't it wasn't really two-sided friendship. It was always, I felt it was one-sided. That's my perception, and it doesn't mean that the other person felt that way, but that's how I felt. And so for me, being used was, someone who I trusted, because again, trust is huge for me. Someone I trusted to, be the kind of friend that was respectful, and we supported one another. To have that person then walk away from the relationship because they didn't like my honest response to something they had said. And so, and to me, a real true friendship is being able to like say the things that maybe you don't necessarily like to hear.
Yeah.
But if you're honest, I feel like honesty is so much better. I think it's to have a friendship is to be real, to honest in your friendship, not meant to like hurt people and be malicious, but being honest in a friendship, I think it shows character. That's just my personal opinion. It shows character, and it shows that you can respect each other if you can receive what's being said by really listening to it, so you can get an understanding of what that person's trying to say. And so I feel like that person in my life didn't really give me that option. They just left. And that's how so for me, that was my whole feeling around being used.
Yeah, and I've had similar experiences as well. Friendships where when they want or need something, I am there just because I'm a helping kind of a person. I like to be there. This is why I'm a coach, because I like to help people. And when the tables are turned and I'm seeking help or I'm asking for help, there isn't that similar reciprocation, or if it is, it's not what I hoped it would be. Another version of that is other friendships where the person you're helping, like I'll show up and help somebody, and they will return the favor on their terms. In other words, they will give me what they want to give me, not what necessarily what I ask for. And that's another version of feeling used. Although I wouldn't necessarily describe it that way myself. I'm using those personal examples of how other people would have described themselves as being used. It's basically, it feels like an imbalanced relationship, an imbalanced friendship where I feel like I'm giving more than I'm giving more than I'm receiving. And that's what feeling used means to me, where I feel like I'm giving more than I'm receiving. And a lot of my clients feel that their relationships are in that fashion. I'm going to say the vast majority of my clients, I think I have one or two that aren't in that boat. But most of my clients are very much in that idea that they feel that they are giving more than they're receiving. And therefore, and all of them have used the word used. I felt used. I feel used. And I think that's for me, that's what the definition is it's an unbalanced relationship, whether it's a romantic relationship or a friendship or a work relationship or whatever. We feel used when we don't feel there's a balance in the give and take.
Yeah, I agree for sure, because I think like any relationship, whether it's personal, professional, romantic, whatever that looks like, there has to be both sides have to bring equally and be open and willing to give equally and not just be the person that always takes and someone's always giving. And so I think that part of like what you and I do being coaches is that we do hold space for a lot of people in different ways. And it's usually the emotional space. And so that could really be something that, we both maybe not using the word as being used. Now, I felt, as I said, I gave a personal experience, and I did feel used. I did use that terminology, but I think with being in this space with what we both do, it can be challenging for us to be able to say, okay, how do we determine if that's really what's happening? Because I guess we have a personal choice, is what I like you were saying. We have a personal choice to either believe that we're being used, or to believe that, or to maybe look at it from a different perspective. Because sometimes people leaning on you, or sometimes people leaving, is just their own insecurities around things, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they're using you to take from you what all they can get before they leave. And there are people that do that, of course. But there are also people out there who, we're all dealing with our own insecurities. Nobody is. No, there's not one person on this planet that can't say that they haven't had some insecurity in their lifetime. And they have found ways to deal with it. But I think some people might deal with insecurities by just, they cut people from their lives. It could be just because that's their own, they're going through stuff and they cut people from their lives. And so maybe you might feel used because someone's done that, but it could be something completely different as to the reason why that person has done it, and it has really nothing to do with you at all. So and we can look at it from that perspective as well.
Yeah, that's often the case with somebody who's being accused of or being perceived as being a user, or somebody who uses other people, is oftentimes they have a different level of service or a different style of service than what you're expecting. So let's just use you and I as an example. Let's say that there was something that you like to do that I don't, a way that you like to serve people that I don't, and a way that I like to serve people that you don't. I might want you to serve me the way I serve people, but it's just not what you do. So therefore, I might feel the relationship is unbalanced because you're not giving me what I asked for. But that doesn't mean that it's unbalanced, because you might be serving me in some other way that I don't value, or I don't expect, or I don't recognize. And that could cause an imbalance in the friendship, or at least it could cause a perception of imbalance from my perspective. It might not feel that way from your perspective. And this is often what happens. Like you said a minute ago, it's not always is it a person who is intentionally using people. Those people do exist, but they're a lot more rare than we think. Most people are just going through life doing the best that they can, and almost everybody wants to serve other people. Just how they want to do it and how much they're able to do it is not necessarily the same as what our relationships are. So you and I are serving people. We are coaches, right? So when we're helping people, we're often in that position of offering more than we receive in most of our different relationships, because we have the ability to serve. We've taken care of enough of our own lives that we can serve, and we know how to serve, and we have the skill set for serving, and we have the heart for service. And therefore, some of the relationships we're in with people who maybe don't have the heart for service, or don't have the same type of service, or maybe who don't understand what service actually looks like for themselves. Maybe they aren't serving as much as we serve, or maybe they're not giving back to our relationship with us as much as we're giving to the relationship. Or maybe we're just not seeing how they serve, or how they trade back what they offer us. And it could be that we're feeling an imbalance simply because of how we perceive the situation. And it comes down again to our own expectations. We expect them to give us back in a specific way, especially if we ask for support. if I say, look, I need a couch to sleep on, and our friend says, well, no, I can't let you stay here. My girlfriend and I are having tough times, or, I got a dog I need to take care of, or I got kids or something, maybe there's some reason they can't give you that thing, yet they might be willing to, take you out for dinner a couple of times a week to make sure you don't go hungry. Or maybe they might be willing to, offer you some money, but not much for time. Or maybe they are willing to sit on the phone with you for a couple of hours, once or twice a week, but they're not willing to, hang out with you in person. They might be willing to serve you in some way that you're not looking for, instead of the way that you are looking for. So it comes down to the expectations, right? So yeah, it can be a matter of just a different way of looking at what service looks like, what actually being a friend or a partner looks like. And each of us have different perceptions of that. I find with a lot of my clients, that's what I spend a lot of time doing with them, is helping them to reframe their perceptions of their relationships, helping them to not actually change anything about what actually goes on, just change how they see it and how they feel about it. Help them understand what they're actually getting and what they actually want, and that sort of stuff. So yeah, it can be just a matter of, are you feeling used because you're not getting what you want? Do you have an expectation of what you're looking for, and you're expecting that from somebody who's either not willing or not capable of giving that to you, but they give you other things instead? It could be that.
Yeah, it could be that, and it also could be, again, that we have said that there are people out there who intentionally go out and get everything that they can. But then I think that also makes me think that there's also an underlying thing there as well, right? The insecurities. So now we've talked about what does it mean to be used by our own perspectives. Mainstream, as far as, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of people out there that are online doing businesses. I think that this could also be something that could even be influenced by social media as well,
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I've even seen people like, okay, well, they want, for specifically, they want to join a group, for example, or they want to join a community so that what they can get out of it. Mm-hmm. And so is that meaning that they are going in intentionally to be malicious, to take everything from and not add value? Does it mean if you don't give that you're using? Like, that's the other question, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, in order for us to get better at what we do, we go looking for the information, we go searching for the solutions. And if that means going into a group where we know there's people that we admire, we look up to, or we go on YouTube and we're watching all of the videos, the how-to videos, all of those things, the thought reversal videos, those types of things. And we get all of that. Are we then, because then people could say, well, you're using these people for your benefit, but it's like, I guess there's a fine line, like how we can really differentiate what being used is all about.
Yeah, that actually brings up a good issue, because what I've experienced is most people go into groups intending to offer value, mm-hmm. and intending to gain value. They want to have that symbiotic relationship where I'm giving and taking. Most people, I'm going to say probably a lot of people, 80-90% of people join groups for that purpose. But what actually happens is most people take in groups. Most people don't know how to give, and I think there's a reason for that. What I've experienced is most people don't give in groups for two basic reasons. A, they don't feel they have the time, or B, they don't feel they have the expertise. A lot of people don't give in groups because, like you said, they join the groups for those few people in the group who are good at whatever that group's about. And they don't figure they can offer the value that those few people can offer, so they don't try and offer value at all, because they don't figure what they have has any value or has enough value. So it's an insecurity thing. Again, back to what you were saying again. It's a lot of people join groups intending to give and take, and they're like, oh yeah, I can help people. But then the level of conversations or the styles of conversations that they're participating in, they're more in the student role or more in the the learning role than they are ever in the teaching role. So in a lot of groups, it's simply a fact that there isn't it hasn't been cultivated. The culture hasn't been cultivated to help people realize the what they themselves have to offer. And I think that's one of the things that good groups have, is they have a way to culture what each member has. They have a way to help each member realize what it is that they have to offer the group. And when we do that, then we have more participation in the giving sense, in the serving sense. And I think that's the simple what it is I don't think people go into groups to use the group. I think people go in for that symbiotic relationship. They just don't feel like they have anything to offer, or much to offer, or enough to offer. There's some word there, or some insecurity there, that they don't think they can do that. And then once they start answering a few questions and commenting on people's posts and interacting in the community and getting some feedback that, wait a minute, you are smart, then those people tend to actively participate more and serve more and offer more. I've noticed myself doing that. I've noticed that in the groups that I'm a part of, other people doing that as well. The more that somebody likes what they say, the more they say, even if it's on a completely different subject. So I think that's one of the things that makes people feel like they're using or being used, is that the people who they're wanting service from or wanting to give and take relationship with don't feel worthy or enough to be able to give back. I know a lot of my clients, they don't figure they have anything to offer me. What the hell can I offer you? You already have everything I got. You're teaching me stuff. How can I teach you stuff? And other than money, which that isn't the point. The point is to have a symbiotic relationship where we're actually giving, taking back and forth, especially if you happen to be friends with some of these people. And I think this is what you and I have managed to do, is we've managed to find a balance in the give and the take. We both give and we both take. We both get something from these conversations, and we both have something to give from these conversations. And I think we like that. That's what makes these conversations such magic for us.
Yeah, and I think it's confidence. I think it's the one thing that's missing, is because you can go in and you start comparing yourself to the people in a Facebook group, as an example, where you've got the experts, where you're going in and you're looking to learn. And initially, you're going to learn from other people how to get better at what you do. And then once you start getting a little bit better at what you do, you still aren't willing to pull the trigger because there's the fear. But then on the flip side of that, we've talked about this with, in our coaches chats that we do on Mondays, where there's the whole thing around how Facebook groups are being run, where there is a lot of restrictions in how you post, and you have to post in specific threads and post about whatever it is for that specific thread. And then you get lost in the noise, really, because if you've got, like, for example, there's one on Facebook that's at 500,000 people in that group, and you're thinking, okay, I can be a part of this thread. But if you go into that thread and you already see that there's like 150,000 posts or 150 posts, and you're thinking, well, how do I even stand out in that? Like, why do I even give? I must continually look through the group to see what I can get from it. Or you'll get and that's kind of like why I started my other group in Facebook, was really to give that platform that if you want to post something, it can be it can stand alone as your own content. But I like what you were saying, that I'm growing the group, but there is, I think, that level of maybe fear of going first, of being the one to start, being someone that's going to feel confident enough to start adding, whether it's through your free content, whether it's through your paid, how do you want to do this? Like, just being yourself in the group. That's what I'm trying to promote in this group. And I've gone live myself a few times, and I am, encouraging the other women to do it. But I don't feel that they're using me per se, but I think it's they're using the group to get their legs, but I also want them to use the group in another way, which is to promote themselves, to promote what they do, what they can offer, because there's always going to be someone in the group that's going to need something. And so it is going to be that give and take, which I'm trying to create that balance. But it's how do we get them to go from spectator to actually being a part of it? And so that's interesting how we have been able to transition this conversation into a different way, because how it was meant in the beginning when we first talked about it a few weeks ago, or probably a couple months ago, maybe a little bit more than that, was around my own personal feelings around a friendship being lost, and yet we can look at it from different perspectives.
There's all kinds of perspectives.
Yeah, so I like that.
Yeah, and just to give my thoughts on your Facebook group concept, like I was mentioning a few minutes ago, I think the easiest way that we can get people to participate in the groups is to help them see their own expertise. What is it that they're good at? So as the showrunner, as the group leader, what you could do is you could showcase different members of the group and say, okay, what is, and actually have like a one-on-one conversation, maybe a 10 or 15 minute conversation, or an individual messenger conversation with each of the members, and say, okay, what is your expertise? And then you make a post introducing them and their expertise so that they feel like they have a specific spot in the group. As I was mentioning before, we can build a culture of expertise. Mm-hmm. We can build a culture in our groups of helping the members feel like they have something to offer. And I think that's something that a lot of group leaders, group members don't know how to do. They just don't know how to build a culture of participation. And quite honestly, the very nature of groups, the fact that you have a group makes you the leader, makes you the person who runs the thing. Like I was the one who started those mastermind calls that were on Mondays, and there was another one on Tuesday. And I was the de facto leader just because I started the groups, when actually I wanted to get other smart people to teach me stuff. And you're one of those smart people who has taught me stuff. So, but just because I started the group, it was, yeah, right. It was just because I started the group, it was my assumed position that I would be the leader of the group and therefore doing the most offering, right? So oftentimes people who join groups, they don't know that they have permission, especially because a lot of group leaders, like you were saying earlier, have so many restrictions. And because that's become the culture of groups per se on Facebook, a lot of people feel a bit shy to step up. So, as a group leader, you can create the culture by showcasing different members and saying, okay, this is your skill, or this is your skill, or maybe even just doing a post and who has this skill or who has that skill, or who does this or who does that, and just create a culture of calling out people's specialties and calling out people's skill sets and calling out people's expertise and their strengths, so that other members go, oh, so there's like 4 people who can help me with my relationship, and there's like 6 people who can help me with my business, and there's like 3 people who can help me pick a college, or whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah, I love that.
And that way we can build that culture. So how do we feel used? I think we feel used when we don't actively show people what it is we're looking for from them. If we go into relationships because, we both like racing, but one of us likes to talk about racing and share our experience with racing, and the other one doesn't know anything about racing, just likes to watch it, then the person who has all the knowledge might feel like they're being used by the person who doesn't know anything. When it turns out that the person who doesn't know anything might be their simple desire to know might be the thing they bring to the relationship, but they don't feel that way, right? So it can be just a matter of changing the perspective and helping different people in relationships see what it is that not only that they bring, but also what they receive.
Yeah, so. I love that. And I think you kind of hit on something which I love, which is creating the culture. So that's like creating the culture of relationships as well.
Yes.
Because we have these expectations when we go in. Like when you meet a new person, you have that expectation that you hope the expectation is to like this new person,
Mm-hmm.
to get along with them, to have share similar interests, to build a friendship, to and whatever that looks like. Same thing romantically. You go into a relationship. Most people who go into dating don't just go to date. Well, some people like to date multiple people. I've never been that type of person,
No.
but you might be that person who's looking for that relationship, but then you start putting the expectation. Well, where is this going? There's your expectation of I find someone, we start to date, we start to get serious. My expectation is now we get married, then we have a family, and we do all of this, and we go here, and this is the life we live. And that's a culture that you built for yourself around your own expectation of what it should look like. It's just
Right.
so I love where this conversation is going, because really it is about creating a culture so that the
Yes.
culture is the type of friendship you want, your expectation for it. How do you build that expectation into, I guess, kind of like an agreement between the two of you, actually making it a two-way street rather than all one way? Like, this is my way, this is how I expect
Right.
it to be. And if I don't get out of this relationship what my expectation is of it, then I'm going to feel used by it. And this is a very good learning experience for me too, because again, I was feeling all in my feelings for a long time, that I felt slighted when maybe I went into my expectation of it was not the same as the other person. And so I wasn't listening to the cues. I wasn't seeing,
Right.
I wasn't listening or seeing the prompts. I wasn't paying attention. And so it's really becoming aware of that.
Yeah.
It's important to be aware of the people in your life, the type of people in your life. And yes, again, we do want to point out that there are people out there who do intentionally everything what's in it for them, and I think they're called narcissists. What's in it for them only.
Yeah.
But there are people out there who, again, like you said, there are other underlying factors that, like you
Mm-hmm.
said, you gave that analogy of the race car, the racing, um,
Racing
race
fans.
racing fans, and that analogy around it. And one person has this type of knowledge, and this person just is more coming to learn about it. But this person is very knowledgeable, and they can share in the experience because they both love that
Right.
topic.
Right.
So it's like really just understanding what does that mean for that relationship, so that you don't get into that place of feeling used.
Yeah. Yeah. And it comes down to the personal responsibility that you were talking about at the beginning of the conversation. Um, when we create the culture, that is what we in the business would call taking responsibility. You create the culture for the relationship. You decide together what the relationship's going to look like. The reason we don't do that is because we have a bunch of assumptions as to what we think relationships are going to look like. We think they're universal. We think everybody believes a friendship looks like this. Everybody believes a relationship looks like that. But that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not true. And it's not just cultural differences. I'm not just talking, I'm not just talking like Chinese people and German people. I'm not just talking about, Indian people and French people. I'm talking about men and women from this family or that family. I'm talking about, myself and my best friend. We all have different expectations of what things look like. And most of us think that what we believe is standard issue and what everybody else believes is just corrupted.
Mm-hmm.
And the truth is, everybody has their own individual standard issue beliefs, and they're as individual as our fingerprints. And the only way to really decide what a friendship or a relationship or a business partnership or whatever kind of a relationship is going to look like is for the two of you to sit down and actually talk about it, actually communicate as to what my expectations are, or what my desires are, or what my boundaries are, or what my what my hopes and dreams are, what I want from this. And I'm not suggesting that the first moment you meet somebody, you sit down in a coffee shop and you go, oh, we just met. Let's decide what the dynamics of our relationship look like. I'm talking about when you feel like there is a relationship you want to pursue. Maybe you've had coffee once or twice and you decide, we want to pursue this some more. I want to be your friend, or I want to pursue this romantic relationship, or I want to work with you, whatever the case may be. When you figure out that you want to pursue a partnership with this person, whatever that relationship's going to look like, that's when you sit down and you decide what the dynamics should be, what you want the dynamics to be. And you have an open discussion with some active listening and a little bit of talking, as in I listen more than I talk, which is a skill I get to work on because I like to talk a lot. But the idea of active listening and really paying attention to what the other person says, right? This is one of the things that's built our friendship, is we both do that. We both play off of each other. And that's how you build the dynamics of a friendship. That's how you build the dynamics of a relationship of any flavor, is by sharing your experiences and your desires with each other. What I want. And that doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be all heavy and emotional like you might do in a romantic relationship. It might be more surface level, or there's a word for it, shallow, that like you might do in some of your coworker relationships, some of your colleague type relationships, where you're more talking about, okay, well, this is my duties and this is your duties and this is how they're described in our job descriptions, but really I'm better at this and you're better at that, so maybe we can swap some things back and forth, and maybe I can support you in this way and you can support me in this way, or whatever. So it doesn't have to be any heavy hard conversation, but having those conversations about this is what I think the dynamics of our relationship could look like. What do you think? And then they get to actively participate in what they think the dynamics of the relationship could look like. And the more we can do that, the more we build relationships, the more we build a culture in our relationships, the more we build a style, a flavor, the more, what I call it, the more we culture our relationships. Yeah. And I do that with my social media as well.
Yeah, no, I like that. So now we've talked about what does it mean to be used, and we've gone through different scenarios. So
yes.
If you are being used, the second question is, are you enabling the person using you? Because there also comes that codependency as well, right? So are you enabling someone else to use you, maybe because you have it could be like low self-esteem issues. It could be that this person, you could be that service type person and you're always saying yes to holding space for someone who may be draining your energy. Like this example, someone could be always, whenever you're in that relationship with someone, it's always about them. Whenever they bring to the table, whatever they talk about, it's always about them. Mm-hmm. Or if you go out and maybe you go out for dinner in like a romantic relationship and there's the whole splitting the bill, or you go out with a friend and they're always letting you do the paying for the meal, or there are people, and this is something that I've been listening to with a book from Mel Robbins. She has a new book out, and I've been listening to it on audio. One of the things she talks about is someone who's always apologizing, and that's usually because they're looking for you to come to their rescue and say, no, it's okay, you are fine, right? They may never say thank you. Maybe they're always they might make you feel like they are feeling entitled to the things that are going on around them. And so they never say thank you, not even to you. Maybe they're always asking you for favors, and you're always giving and giving, and they're always asking and taking. But when you need them and you ask and you reach out, they're not available. They don't have time. It's not the right time. And so like that, but then these could be some signs of someone who could be in a relationship and they are using you. But what does it look like when you are actually allowing it, like when you are actually enabling someone to use you in a way where you start to resent, you start feeling taken advantage of, and maybe I don't know, maybe it just becomes you might even hold a grudge, you might become very distant to other people, you might and cut them out of your life. So what are your thoughts on, like, what do you think about that, like around, are you enabling, and how do you know if you're enabling someone else to use you?
So that's I like this question specifically. I think this was the part of the conversation that I brought up because I specifically like the conversation around enabling. First of all, the short answer is I don't believe that word even exists. Like I don't believe we enable users. What I believe we do is we expect something from them that isn't what they're offering us. And for example, even a narcissist who always takes, there are people who like to give, who will serve narcissists, who will do so willingly without using up all their energy. The idea of enabling somebody is the very concept means it's about that person. In other words, if I'm feeling used and I feel like I'm enabling them to use me, I'm creating an action or a scenario in them. I'm creating a personality trait in them. But that is a completely disempowering point of view. I don't have any power because they're using me and I'm enabling them to use me. So I don't have any power. All I can do is stop from enabling them or continue to enable them. Whereas if you simply admit to the choices you have, well, you can let them use this, or you can let them use that, or you can serve them in this way or serve them in that way. If you decide to serve them instead of enabling them, the actions you do don't have to change one iota, but how you feel about those actions can, because now I'm giving to them voluntarily. I'm serving them because maybe what they need from me is something that I'm the only person in their life that can offer it to them. Maybe I'm giving something that I have an abundance of and they have none of, or they don't know where else to get it from. So that allows me to serve instead of enable. But the actions that I do are exactly the same. How much I show up, how often I show up, and what I do is exactly the same. But I'm serving them because now I'm doing it because I want to, not because they're demanding it. It's about my choices, not theirs. Am I choosing to do it or not? And if I'm feeling used, I can simply choose not to do it, and then I'm not enabling anything. Right? There is no enabling going on, because as soon as we use the word enabling, we give them all of our power. We give them all of our authority, all of our autonomy, all of our thoughts and feelings, when they're never theirs to start with. We get to choose how we feel, how we think, how we act. They don't. Well, they can ask us for all the things that we've been giving them this whole time, and we get to say yes or no. And whether we say yes or no, that authority is ours, and that isn't enabling whether we say yes or no. Even if we continue to say yes to everything they ask for, that's still not enabling, because now we're choosing whether or not we give it to them. So the very concept of enabling is something that I think the person who's doing the enabling, the person who's being used, this is your responsibility. When you're being used, when you're enabling somebody to use you, are you serving because you want to serve? Are you serving because they've asked, because you feel obliged? If you feel obliged, that isn't their problem, that's yours. That's something you get to deal with, right? And I'm not talking to you specifically, Leslie. I'm talking to the viewer, right? It's specifically, it's the person who's feeling used, the person who's doing the enabling. It's your responsibility to change what you want, what you're doing. If you don't like doing it, then stop doing it. If you are doing it because this is your specialty, then do it. I have lots of clients who don't reciprocate our relationship. Lots of free clients who don't even pay me to do what I do. And I love doing it because this is what I love to do. I don't feel used. I'm not enabling them, although in most cases, their friends and family believe I am enabling them, What I'm doing is I'm serving because I want to serve, because this is what I love to do.
Oh, I just love this because I knew this was going to go here, and I was so excited about this second question. I really was, because for me, you hit on everything exactly. It is our personal responsibility to decide how we are going to let others treat us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or shall I say, it's our responsibility how we are going to allow ourselves to feel about how we're being treated, right?
Correct.
One of the things that you said around this word labeling, which really I wanted to talk about, was I feel it's a very disempowering word that you're giving to someone else, so you're labeling them. If you're saying that you're giving yourself a disempowering word, saying you're an enabler, and you're then giving disempowering like your thoughts and feelings around a certain person, if you're enabling them to be a certain way, you're basically saying that there's something wrong with them too. So it's a double whammy because you're putting yourself down and you're putting them down. And so yeah, I love, like, that to me was like the word enabling, and it's really the choices that we make. And this is really, it really kind of makes me think a lot around my own personal family dynamic, where my mom has said some things about my youngest brother, and there's some issues there, and I said, have you tried actually encouraging?
Yeah.
Because our words do matter.
Yes.
And so if we're always saying that you are this, you are always, like, when you use the word you, like, I always say, I think that when you use the words like you always or you never, these are disempowering, right? They're putting you in a box, and the box isn't necessarily a nice place to be. And so I said to her, have you tried the encouragement? Use encouragement, even if you feel like you're being used, even if you feel like you are enabling the person to use you a certain way. If we could be the person to then step up and encourage them to switch how they are maybe, acting around us, but then we also switch how we respond to that, because it's our choice. I think it really does come down to, because I've learned a lot since that happened to me this year, and a lot of it has to do with being a coach, having the tools, having people like you in my life, having the support system, and I've learned a lot around who I am, how I either allow people, how they show up in my world, how it affects me. It's my choice. Yes. No one can make the decision for us on how we respond to anything. It's truly up to us. And so that means that no one can actually make you feel a certain way unless you choose to feel that way. Yes, people can hurt you with their words. Of course, absolutely. But it's the level that we allow them. It's the choice that we can make around the intensity, the level of intensity of that emotion that we decide we're going to give to them, because we're giving away our power by letting someone make us feel really, really bad. I allowed that to be my truth for a while. We talked about it, you and I. Yeah. And it was something, that's why I told you we could talk about this in one of our lives. But since that conversation, I have learned a lot about who I am, and about how it is my choice. The choices I decide how I'm going to respond, how I'm going to feel, or shall I say, how much I'm going to feel, and how long I'm going to allow that to make me feel that way. Right. Because in the long run, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, is that friendship going to derail me for the rest of my life? Am I never going to? Is it going to stop me from living and serving and being the person that I am now? It just has taught me about me as a human being, the choice that I get to make on how we go in and build that culture around friendships and the expectations, having the conversations. Yeah. and paying attention to how they respond and how we respond. And because even though it might not be a romantic relationship, professional relationships and friendships are equally, they can cause equal types of emotions in us, right?
Yeah,
And
that's right.
sometimes friendships, even more so, can be harder to handle the breakup than it would be in a romantic relationship. Just because those friendships that we actually cultivate with some people that are really close to us, they could be long-term friendships that regardless of what's happening in your romantic life, those people really like support you in ways that maybe your partner cannot. And so just being able to like make those choices around that. So I love where this conversation started exactly where I knew it would, and it's transitioned into exactly where I was hoping it would, and it's been amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It definitely is about personal responsibility. I mean, we get to choose. We get to choose our relationships, and we often give power to other people. The the result of in our lives is that we tend to blame other people for our own feelings. And one of the things that we one of the things that we miss out on is we miss out on the choices we get to make. We miss out on the responsibilities we get to have. We miss out on the um, we miss out on the benefits of those responsibilities. We miss out on the I don't know. I can't think of a different word than benefits, but we miss out on all the good things we can have when we take responsibility. When a person when I made the switch from being used to serving, I actually chose not to change how I show up in relationships. Instead of saying instead of saying like most people when they stop being used, or when they decide they don't want to enable other people to use them anymore, most people switch from a codependent kind of a relationship whose self-esteem is dependent on what other people think of them and how other people treat them, and so therefore they spend their lives trying to make other people happy so that those people will validate them. That's the definition of codependency. When people switch from that, the typical switch is to go from there to independence, as in, I'll take care of myself and I'll only allow those people in my life who want to have a sharing relationship. Well, I went past that. I decided to not let them have control of my self-worth and take that myself, but I still also wanted to serve them, because I still found a bunch of people, those using people, were needy. They did not have a way to fulfill those needs, and they were using me because I could fulfill those needs for them. So I wanted to continue to fulfill those needs without feeling used. And so what I did is I simply switched how I approach it and why I do it. So I still get used as often as I used to, but I do it on purpose now. I'm doing it because I want to serve. I'm doing it to show up because I want to help them have a better life. So when I show up now, when somebody's using me now, I do so from a full cup. I do so from a life who has an abundance of service. I do so from an ability to just give freely as much as I want to give. And how I do that is by taking responsibility for my own damn life first. And if I'm feeling, down or a little out of energy or a little, emotionally drained, then I don't serve. And what I found is I actually end up serving way more from this place. I end up getting used way more from this place, but I don't feel used. I'm not enabling anybody because I'm only giving from my abundance, my extra, my excess. My cup is overflowing, and I'm flowing to them. And so that's a perspective change, and it doesn't change much about my activities in those relationships. I still serve just as much as I used to. Be on the phone for 5, 6, 7 hours per day with one person for months in a row. I can do that because I'm serving them, because I want to serve them. And quite honestly, when he doesn't need me anymore, when some of those friends don't need me anymore, I don't hear from them for weeks or months at a time. If I need something, I might text them and they'll get on the phone for 5 or 10 minutes and we're done. I get nothing else. And that's fine because I have other places to get those needs met. I don't need that person to meet those needs. I find someone who can meet those needs and I get them to do it. So my needs, my cup's getting filled up, not from them, but from somebody else, so that when they need me, I can show up. So what I did is I simply changed the perspective of how I do it. I still serve my ass off. I still serve because I love to serve, because that's what I do. I'm still doing as much or more for those same people as I used to do. So instead of cutting them out of my life, which is what a lot of people will do, I serve them harder. I serve them more because that gives me practice in my service. It gives me the ability to test boundaries in my service. It gives me the ability to test my ability to serve, to modify, to evolve, to change, to play with my ability to serve. Because I know they're never going to return the favor, or they won't return the favor most of the time. I know that they're not we don't have the kind of relationship where it's a give and take. It's more of a me give and they take. I know that going in, and I'm willing to do it still anyway. So I changed the expectations around the relationship. I'm going to serve them, and that's okay because that allows me to get more practice at being better server. So when I do run into those people who want to have a give and take, a symbiotic relationship, I have far more to offer them because of how much I serve those who don't give anything back. It just allows me to be a better person.
No, I love that perspective, and it is all perspective, right? It's how
it is all perspective.
How you look at it. So you can choose to believe that other people, believe that other people are using you, or you can actually use it as a way, a tool, really, to help other people to serve, to be in that place of service, and that's what we both do. We're in a place of service, so it's just how we look at it. Are we looking at it from, well, if we're putting expectations around the people that we serve, and we're missing the point.
Yes.
And I think, it's just learning that. So I love that. We're at the top of the hour. I can't believe it again. But I don't even know why I say that, because this is just typical.
This is habit for us. This is habit for us.
It's amazing. And I love the conversation. I think we've had some really great conversations. This is probably one of my favorites.
Me too.
I think it's just shifting perspective. It's really about what we choose to be the truth, and it doesn't really have to be true, because a lot of the time we're not looking from the whole picture. We're looking at it from how we feel, and if we can look at it from the whole picture, maybe like just putting ourselves in the shoes of the other person. And again, if those people are in your life that are constantly coming into your life that are making you feel uncomfortable, then that's a choice you can make. Do you let those people stay in your life, or do you find other people to be in your circle? It's really, the choice is yours. It's not like because you make friends with somebody that that's it, you're done. It's like, life is what you make it. And that's why I'm like you. Like, I believe we're all connected. Yep. And whether it's the positive or the negative, we're all connected. And it's just finding a way to how can we influence each other, and how do we move through those moments where we don't feel comfortable, and finding ways to be, like, if we do that from a place of service. I think if you come from a place of service, no matter what is happening, you will always come out on top. And I truly believe that. And even if you come out of that moment where you might feel depleted of energy and you take some time to recharge your batteries, you still come out on top because you will have learned something from that experience. And if you are allowing yourself to be in that growth mindset, you will learn something from each experience. And then moving on to the next experience again, because we are all connected to one another. And they talk about 6 degrees of, they always make fun when they say these different, when they say 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever,
Yeah.
that was one of the things they used to say, I remember
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
And it's just like how you know people. Well, it's just because this person knows that person is connected to this person who's connected to Kevin Bacon, right? And so it's just having, well, it's the same thing. It's like we are connected as people, we are connected to one another, and it's just finding ways to actually have those conversations with each other, building that culture of whether it's a friendship, romantic, or professional, and learning how to do that. So
Yeah.
I've loved this conversation. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everybody, for sticking with us. And we love having you here. If
Yes.
you like this video, please press the like. And we definitely would love for you to click on the bell to get notifications of when we go live next. We do lives every month, twice a month on the second Thursday and the last Thursday of each month. And we come on and we just talk about things, whether it's personal, whether we talk about relationships, personal relationships. We talk about a whole bunch of things, and we just our perspective, obviously, from our own experiences.
Yes.
But we're just trying to bring conversation to the table. It doesn't mean that we're saying that we're right and you're wrong. That we're just having the conversation to kind of get you to think outside of the box. Sometimes we get ourselves stuck in this place where this is the belief, and we're not allowing ourselves to challenge beliefs. So, again, I love how you challenged the word enabling. I loved how you challenged how the words being used.
Mm-hmm.
You challenge that, and so it's we will have these conversations where we will challenge the mainstream. We will challenge the typical thought that other people would have, that, oh, someone takes from you all the time, they're using you, and it's not necessarily that. So it's just allowing you to think that there could be more to your relationship with someone than you truly know.
Yes.
So I don't know if you have anything else to say, Andy, but I am really happy that we had this conversation. I don't know if there's anything else you want to leave our listeners with.
I just want to say thank you for enabling us to use you, all of you.
You are so
I
funny.
just wanted to put that in there.
Yeah, of course. Yes, always the comedian. Well, thank you so much for this conversation. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself with this. I'm always having great conversations with you. We will be back again in the second Thursday of next month. So keep an eye out for that, and we will see you all soon. Thanks for coming.